Hi, welcome to our regular weekly edition of the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, October 3rd. I am Doug Ross, editorial page editor at the Times, here with Crista Zivanovic, assisting managing editor. Let's talk about the government shutdown, which everybody's talking about. What do you see as the resolution to this?
I don't see a resolution, which is really kind of scary. And I really thought for sure that they would have some kind of something hammered out last night when the president invited the key Republicans who are demanding and expecting the Senate Democrats and or the president to come up with some sort of compromise. I really thought it would be over. And I was really rather shocked to wake up this morning and find out that nothing happened. So it concerns me deeply, and I'm really not quite wondering what they would expect the Senate Democrats and president to compromise on. Whatever you think of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and I think the jury's still out for some people, although the president says that all of the jamming up the internet shows that there is a hunger and a need for health insurance, and people are eager to at least check it out. Whatever you think of that, I think that the Democrats did compromise in a way already with accepting the sequester cuts and saying, all right, we're going to agree to that. We'll agree to more cuts. We'll agree to an overhaul of the Internal Revenue Code and other things. But I really think it's a little bit unfair to expect them to hold off on Obamacare for another year. During the presidential election, pundits were saying, okay, this is going to decide it. If the president wins, I guess that's the mandate that Obamacare goes forward. Well, the president won. The Senate actually gained some seats, Democratic seats. And so I just think that if the situation were reversed, we would be sitting here really slamming the Democrats for trying to hold the others hostage, for trying to stop a law that has been vetted and approved by the Supreme Court as the law of the land. So I don't know what's gonna stop the impasse.
Well, unlike you, I was not surprised when I woke up this morning and saw that the sun was shining, but the government wasn't.
I was surprised. I thought they'd hammer something out because I think the Republicans are getting slammed for it, and I think the Democrats are getting nervous too.
Well, I think if I were the Republicans, I'd be really nervous about it because, I mean, you look at all the public opinion polls and who's getting, the primary blame for it. It's the House Republicans. Now they're in, with redistricting having been done a couple of years ago, they're in, for 2011, they're in pretty safe seats, a lot of them. But there are some that are in competitive seats, and to me, they've put themselves in a position where, okay, where's your exit strategy from this? How do you negotiate your way out of this and still look like you won when you know that you have no way of really getting Obamacare killed, or at least not until a new president's elected.
Right.
So I think they're in a tough spot. Also, they've got, frankly, I think they acted too soon. I think if they had, fought over the debt limit in a couple of weeks, I think they would have had a much better bargaining position.
Well, they might be. This might be carried out until we get to the debt limit.
I wouldn't be shocked if it
I wouldn't either.
And then, what happens then, I think the United States cannot default. I mean, it must not. Because, you look at what the world's economy is based on, and it's the U.S. economy, and the full faith and credit of the United States, that it just simply cannot default.
But do you get a sense that the Republicans feel that sense of urgency too? I'm getting a sense that they think we should default and just let the wheels fall off. They were willing to let that happen in several instances before. I know in Indiana, Treasurer Murdoch was willing to do that with the pensions, to protect the pensions of state workers.
And let
Chrysler go bankrupt. And so I don't know. It seems like there's enough of a strong feeling among a certain faction of Republicans. I don't know, maybe.
Well, and for him, for Murdoch, it was a matter of principle. He was one of the reasons that the Senate stayed in Democratic hands, by the way, was because of his comments about
But I
abortion.
wonder if there are enough Tea Party Republicans who really do believe in their hearts and stand on principle. Let's just let the government default till we get our way, or I don't know.
Well, it's going to be a really
it's a strange times.
Well, it is strange, and and to me, what's strange is looking at here's what's happening in our nation's capital. There's so much polarization. There were even shots fired at the Capitol today. We heard just before we began taping, and there's all of this going on in D.C. All of this strife over the Democratic majority in the Senate and so forth. And the Republicans are saying, it was the Democratic majority that pushed through Obamacare, and we're fighting it tooth and nail. What I'm wondering is, why aren't the Indiana Democrats saying, hey, look at all the laws that were, right to work and so forth, that were passed through by the Republican supermajority? Why are they not being so vocal about this, saying, well, if they can argue, if the Republicans nationally can argue about that, the Democrats at the state level should make pretty much the same argument against the Republicans.
That's a good point.
I don't know. You touched on Obamacare at the crux of all of this. Of course, we saw the sign-ups begin Tuesday. The servers were, crashing basically because the website showed unavailable, and frankly, I don't know how much of that was because government employees were furloughed, and how much of that was sheer demand.
Right, I don't know either.
And I think a lot of the web traffic early on was just everybody going on it just to see what it looked like. I'm told that
probably all the journalists trying to test it. Right?
Journalists and Republicans. I had Republicans posting snapshots of these things, and I'm thinking, surely you wouldn't be trying to sign up if you're fighting it. Why are you even on this website? But I'm told that the Republican or the Hoosiers who were going into this were seeing the message from the Indiana Department of Insurance, if you'll recall, that gave catastrophic predictions of the costs and so forth that seemed not to have borne fruit. They were wildly exaggerated, and so I'm wondering how much of that is just causing panic in a system that really why
Yeah. And people do have 3 months. January 1st is the deadline, so hopefully the government will resume and there will be people to call. And at least in those states where the states have worked with the feds, the states have set up call centers and things. Not in Indiana, but I know in Illinois and other states. So
Brian Howie's calling for Sunday, in fact, points out that and I'll give you a sneak peek if you if you don't want to wait till Sunday. But he's saying that in Massachusetts they set aside $24 million to try to coach people through this process and make it more user friendly. In Indiana they set aside $2 million. So this says a lot.
I don't know if people remember. Some of us are old enough to remember, or students of history, but I know that when Medicare and Social Security went through, there were dire, dire concerns. It's socialism. It's unethical. I'm so sorry. Didn't know I had that in my
Musical
pocket.
interlude here.
It's unethical. It's going to bankrupt the government. And actually, had we not done certain things that would not bankrupt the government, it might now. Who knows? But eventually, things worked out. So. I, as a student of history, I really do believe the pendulum always swings back, and I think that we'll hopefully see in the next few months that for those people who need it and who wanted it and who qualify, we should give it some time and see.
And the irony is, if you look at, Social Security was obviously put through by President Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt. So, you have that being a Democratic program, and you have Obamacare being a Democratic program. But remember, Medicare Part D was a Republican program.
And that came under harsh criticism as well. And now a lot of seniors seem pretty happy with that as well. So.
Right, and the costs pretty well settled down pretty quickly.
Right.
So, so we'll see what happens with Obamacare.
Yeah.
If it crashes under its own weight, it crashes, and if it's good, it's good. let the public policy play out and see what happens. We should talk about some of the local health insurance issues. Porter County has done something that they've put off for a long time, frankly, for years, deciding this week to raise, and I'm talking about county government, to raise deductibles and premiums and basically to
for county employees
to make it more affordable for county government. This is one of the things that we've been talking about a long time. What's driving the cost of local government in particular? It's the benefits.
Right.
I don't know if you want to speak to that, but
well, I think that the argument will be made that people who work for the government don't make a lot of money, so this is one of their perks. But the truth is, people who work in the private sector have high deductibles, they pay high premiums. Many of them don't have pensions. They rely solely on their 401ks and hopefully their Social Security when they retire. So I really do think that it is going to be painful for state workers, for county workers. I know Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel is talking about the same thing. He's hoping to delay or figure out a way to possibly even take away pensions, reduce them, limit them, health insurance. I think that local government and state government are all grappling with this. It's not just Porter County.
Right, and I think you'll be seeing this in Lake County as well.
Oh, I do too. I was just going to say the same thing, absolutely.
And speaking of Lake County, we have a new judge coming on board.
Yes, Governor Pence just named, we just got the press release a little while ago, Sam Kappas, Lake County lawyer, prominent lawyer, defense lawyer, to replace Judge Stefaniak, who has replaced Mary Beth Bonaventura as the juvenile judge. So Judge Stefaniak is now in charge of the juvenile court in Lake County. And Mary Beth Bonaventura, as many people know, left. She was appointed by Governor Pence to run the state DCS, Department of Child Services. And Sam Kappas is an Indiana University graduate. He's a VU law grad. He worked for about 5 years in the prosecutor's office. He also worked as a public defender in criminal cases, and then he went into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. Many people are lauding this choice. He knows criminal law very well. He's deemed ethical. He has worked on both sides, so he understands the tricks of the trade both by prosecutors and by defense lawyers. And I think that we have a really good judge on the criminal bench now. And read more about it in the Times online later today and tomorrow.
And I'll just throw in that this is an example of how the Judicial Nominating Commission is supposed to work.
Good point. Yes.
There's a panel of people chosen to vet the candidates. They throw their names in. This panel sifts through all of these, gives the top 3 names to the governor, and the governor picks one of them. This shows the process working well. So good for that, and hopefully we can expand that to the rest of the state at some point. So that's all the time we have, I'm afraid. Thank you on behalf of Crista and me. Thank you for joining us for this regular weekly edition of the NWI.com Political Roundtable.